Hello, it's Dr. Mike with Coffee and Questions. Today I'm going to talk about different vibration types because there's a lot of machines out there that have different vibrations, and there seems to be a lot of misinformation that's being said about which vibrations are better, which ones are worse. There's a lot of things about disrupting energy flows and things like this, and I want to make this clear. So let's get started. Vibration began as early as the late 1800s by Dr. Kellogg, where they were working with oscillation. They found out that the seesaw movements would create an imbalance in the body, and the body would then try to correct it. And they were using it to treat diseases because posture, things of this nature can affect the nervous system. And I'm not going to go into the details on physiology with that right now, but here's the thing. It all began with oscillation. It first started off with Dr. Kellogg, and then it kind of went quiet for a while. And then in the 60s, the German Olympic teams started experimenting with ways to get improved eye-hand coordination with the Olympic athletes. Back then, the Germans dominated everything. And then the Soviet Union was experimenting with, because they were both communist at the time, they were experimenting with using it to offset zero gravity environments with astronauts. They would come back in a very weakened state, often have to be taken out of the capsule in a wheelchair because the spacecrafts were so small they couldn't do exercises like they can now up in the space station. So they up there for months, causing severe atrophy in the muscles, muscle wasting, bone density loss, to the point where they had the bone density of an 80-year-old woman. Since then, it was experimented with, and it kept going and kept going. And then when the space station opened up, because it was a Soviet-run environment up there, we joined them, the United States, and then they started working with different types of vibration. Then there was a gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, but then they were experimenting with vibration at the Winter Olympic training facility in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Then they started working with kind of like a circular one, which is called the power plate, which is an awesome machine. Since then, it's been evolving. The NFL picked it up, the NBA, and a lot of the pro teams started using it because it really sped up injuries, because it was gentle enough where it wouldn't irritate, something that was in a little past acute would be new, a chronic would be older. So after they would get through the acute stage and the body was healing, they would use it to help increase circulation, get lymphatic flow, to get the damaged material out, to get more beneficial nutrition into the joints, into the areas for faster healing. Then it made it into rehab, where it started going into clinics like chiropractic clinics, medical doctors, physical therapists. Now it's going into the home-based, and now you're seeing a lot of oscillation coming back again. Now, the thing about oscillation is that oscillation has a longer stroke, up to 10 to 12 millimeters, where the other version, the reciprocal, the up and down, would go between 2 to 4. By increasing the amplitude back and forth, it put less stress on the joints, because you can't go up and down 10 millimeters, 12 millimeters, because that would put too much stress on the lower back, called the facet joints, too much stress in the hip joints, where the hip goes into the pelvis, the knees, and also the facet joints in the back, like I mentioned before. So we had to bring down the vibration. We brought up the oscillation because we're using seesaw, and then we have a 2 millimeter to 4 millimeter vertical lift, and this is where the dual plane, or the three vibrational patterns, came into play. Oscillation or seesaw is going to cause more calorie burn because it's causing the body, the hundreds of muscles, going to have to adapt to the constantly changing environment that you're standing on to maintain balance. In regards to the energy levels that people are talking about on the internet, is that, energy with health and with new age medicine, with old mystic type disease treatments, it's never been proven yet, even though that's been around so much longer than modern medicine today. the thing you got to remember is that I'm a science-based guy, and I'm looking at effectiveness. When they do surface EMG, where they actually measure the muscle activity inside a muscle as you're standing on a plate, the more vibration that you put into it, into the body, the more the muscles have to contract and relax to offset the imbalance, which creates more calorie burn. Now, the thing about oscillation is mainly going to burn more calories, while the vertical is going to put more stress on the bones, making the bones stronger. That's why when you start looking at the multi-vibrational systems, they're better for overall health, because you're going to implement the calorie usage of muscle activity from the seesaw, but you can have the vertical vibration, which is small, which is going to cause little micropulses into the bone tissue. Because let me go a little bit. Bone is made up of a crystal formation. There's osteoblast, osteoclast. Now they're bone forming and bone demineralizing. So the body's only going to maintain as much bone tissue as needed. Because a lot of us are living a very subdued life, we're working in front of computers a lot, we're not doing as much manual labor, our skeletal systems are getting weaker. We're not getting as much sun, so we're having a deficiency in vitamin D, which is always causing to this thing called osteopenia, which leads to osteoporosis. And this is mainly effective for women. By having a multi-system, a vibrational system, you're going to have more benefits than the single vibrational systems, because you're going to be working the body at different angles. When you're looking to buy a plate, you got to ask yourself one question. You know, some people can't afford to buy a 3-vibration system because the engineering costs a lot to make it. You have to have stronger parts. It generates more G-force. It's going to put more wear and tear on the plate. Thus, you need it to be heavier, stronger, and use like more reinforced components than, say, a single vibrational system, because the engineering behind these things is pretty tricky now. Because the goal is, as you bring, say, like if you get a cheap plate that's maybe hitting 3 or 4 G-force at lucky, to the more expensive ones that can go above 15, the thickness of the material, the material that's used to manufacture this has to change dramatically. With our plates, our plates roughly weigh about 155 pounds. 155 pounds, depending on what model you get, is designed to last 10 plus years. So when you're looking at a plate, ask yourself this. If you don't have the money to get one, and you say you're an older and you're not really worried about weight loss, and you're looking for a cheaper plate, it might be better to go with the vibrational plate, like the one on the bullet point. We're looking at getting one also. But if you're looking for weight loss, you want to stay with the oscillation. But if you really want to get the overall health, go with a multi-vibrational system. It's going to have the most benefits, create the most imbalance, affect the bones the most, get them stronger. And that's why I sell this one. This is Dr. Mike, Coffee and Questions. Thank you.